Common Ag with Jared and Ian. I mean, there's got to be a common sense approach to this. I mean, right?
Generation X has been quiet way too
115 seconds, velocity 2,700 feet per second, altitude 9.
It was always to be known.
Common Ag.
I want my MT.
Hey, and I feel fine.
Fancy.
What's up, buddy?
What's happening?
Welcome to Common X with Jared and Ian. We are your hosts, Ian Pribber and Jared Mazak. Also, please visit us on our new Facebook page, Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian, available on Spotify and YouTube. Good afternoon, brother. How the hell are you, Jared?
Good, man. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So I guess, welcome to episode 4. This is The Missing 411. So I took a camping trip recently with my family, and we had some pretty shitty weather and went on a nice long hike. And we got this eerie sense of, man, do people ever go missing up here? And one of my, a brother-in-law, I guess I'll go ahead and call him, Logan out of Airway Heights, brought up the missing 411. I had never heard of such a thing. Had you heard of that prior to that discussion there, Jared?
Yeah, I have heard of it before.
So basically what we got with the missing 411 from my discovery is that we have, it comes down to like, it's a book written by David Paulides, and he's got some documentaries, basically mysterious disappearances of people in national parks and rural areas. And I believe the original missing 411 came down to 5 children. Is that how you understand it, Jared?
I believe so. His first book, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the most interesting case, well, no, they're all very interesting, but we could start off with, I guess, the case of Little Dior, right?
Yeah.
So that was eastern Idaho, I believe, disappearance where a family was taking their child up to go fishing with the grandpa, and there was some other interesting characters, I guess I'll say, along with the grandfather. But the family had gone to a gas station or somewhere to get candy and some gas and stuff like that. They came back to the campsite to find the grandfather there talking about how he'd caught some fish in a creek or something like that with his very interesting friend. So the parents went to take Little Dior to go check out this creek and see the fish, and they had just given grandpa some candy or something. So walking halfway from the campsite, the child decides to go back with grandpa to get some candy, and the parents just assume that Little Dior is going to go hang out with grandpa who's got candy, and that they'll just go check out the fish and be right back. Now they're mindful they're probably 50 feet away, maybe. It's not
and he
very
was
far.
what, two years old, right?
Just a little guy, just a toddler. So somehow between looking for the fish and the child running back to grandpa who got candy, this child just mysteriously goes missing. And this opens up a whole new can of worms. And I believe this is the start of David Paulides' missing 411. Jared, how do you think a child can go missing in such close proximity between 2 trusted family members? How do you think that happens?
Aliens.
Wow.
All right.
We're going to start right there.
Right there.
Yeah. Jared's like...
I mean, there's lots of different ways, right?
Right.
He could have wandered off and nobody was paying attention because, his mom and dad had gone further up the stream. So they were within earshot and they could see the picnic table and where, the grandpa was sitting. But they couldn't really see the kid because they were down by the stream. So, and again, like you said, it was probably 100 feet, I think, away.
Yeah.
So in between that 100 feet, the kid turns around, right, to go back to hang out with grandpa. The 2 parents are like, oh, grandpa will watch them. And again, you got to remember, they're in a remote location. Like there's one road in, one road out, and this is at the end of the road. So,
right.
It's not like a huge campsite that tons of people camp at. They were the only people there. So, his mom, his dad, the grandpa, and then I think the grandpa's roommate or neighbor. I can't remember who that guy was again. who was kind of a little weird, but
He's a little sketch, yeah, for sure.
yeah. So I mean, again, if you think maybe abduction, the kid's not just gonna not say anything, right?
Right, he would scream or
So,
yell or
right,
something,
he'd
right?
scream, somebody's taking
he's
him.
2
You'd
years
hear
old.
a vehicle, right? You'd hear a vehicle coming. So they didn't hear any vehicles. They didn't, there wasn't any tire tracks of some other vehicle. They immediately started searching for him once they realized he was gone, and there was zero trace, right? And so, as the documentary kind of points out, like he was wearing like these loose shoes, loose boots. Like if you'd pick him up, they would have fallen off, right? So, and the stream was really shallow, right? So, a
Right.
2-year-old, if he wanted to go down by the stream and if he fell in, he's not going to drown because it's not deep enough. He would just get wet and freak out, right? And again, a 2-year-old's going to scream, "Ah, I'm wet," or he's going to have fun, right? Either way, you're going to hear him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So for him to just disappear without a trace, like they brought in dogs and everything, and dogs couldn't even find a trail. So,
Yeah, my
other
understanding too,
than
the FBI was involved for some time as well.
oh
They
yeah,
just dropped it because there's nothing there, and the
there's
poor
nothing.
parents are going
And-
through all this shit. It's just
Right.
automatically their first suspects as being shitbags because they lost their child or whatever throughout the community. But it's interesting. You're probably not far fetched to mention something like aliens. I mean, me myself, it's going to take some convincing. I just was raised not to believe in anything that you couldn't see, hear, or smell. But
What? You haven't seen UFOs?
I have not. I have yet to
Dude,
be
they're all over the
probed.
place here.
I mean, I haven't. Not yet. At least I haven't been anally probed or sucked into the night yet or anything. And there's been plenty of opportunity for that, apparently. But despite investigative efforts, though, I think it seems like we have a mysterious paranormal activity type. That's where this documentary kind of starts to lead you down, don't you think?
Yeah, they didn't really get to the alien connection in this first documentary. Like he released a documentary in I think 2022 that covers kind of that alien connection,
Right, the missing
Alien
elk and stuff like that.
abductions, right? Elks, going missing. Hunters reported missing that were in that area. And interestingly enough, in that second documentary, when he's talking about that, like there's some weird occurrences exactly in that location, like where Dior went missing. So, a group of hunters were out there elk hunting, and they saw a giant UFO. Like they described it, drew pictures of it, and I think it's time for us to pull our head out of our asses and say we're not the only ones in the universe, right? So like to just not think that there's other beings that could be out there, I think it's kind of ridiculous. And even the government now has released footage, of UFOs. Not saying they're alien, right? Or
They're just unidentified, right?
they're unidentified flying objects
Mhm.
that are doing things that our aircraft can't do, right? Like, a steep 90-degree turn, right? When they're doing 600 miles an hour. Like that would turn a human into gelatin, right? So that's not something we've built, supposedly. And then, some people say portals, like there's, random portals that can open up that are, portals to other dimensions, portals to, alternate realities, and you can just walk through and disappear. So like, I know there's, other, not just the 411, there's been other cases where a family's hiking in the woods and they're all just lined up, dad, mom, sister, brother, whatever, right? And they're just walking and they turn around and one kid's gone. Like no noise, no nothing, right? And if it's an animal attack, there's no animal that's going to kill a human being in one swoop and make it so you can't hear anything, right? Like if it's a mountain lion, you won't hear him coming, but after he jumps out and gets whatever or whoever, you're going to hear the aftermath of that, right? People are going to be freaking out. But again, I think a lot of his investigations focus on the national parks, right? Because a lot of the disappearances where people just disappear and are never found or seen again, they happen in the national parks. And the National Park Service doesn't do a good job of keeping records about that either.
It's my understanding too that they actually, when pressed for data, that they don't have it.
Yep, they said they don't keep track of it, which is ridiculous.
It would cost some over $1 million or something just to produce. That's
Right.
just that's fucking
that's a
asinine.
bullshit excuse
Well,
because
yeah, I mean,
our government sneezes and spends $1 million. So
right, and
it's
and
not a big deal, right?
I mean,
So
I'm a
talking
huge,
about it from a money perspective, that's just
right.
BS.
Well, and let's face it, I mean, data analysis is like key to life these days. I'm
Right.
massively into data driven results and data analysis and very good at it. So I could use a platform like Tableau and produce millions of amazing results for anything. I could probably do it for them from here if I had any sort of, if there was any way to, we won't even open that
Yeah,
can of worms.
it's not a hard system, right? It's
No,
not something that's hard to implement. You know, I'm pretty sure all the National Park Services, their ranger stations have computers, right? So it's not something that wouldn't be difficult to log. They just
right.
don't. And I think that's because I don't know that they know, right, what's really going on, and they're just not willing to say it, or they just don't want people to know how dangerous national parks might be.
So
Right?
are we maybe going back to, a non-fear campaign? Like, are we saying, we don't want people to be afraid to use their parks that they spent so much money on with their tax dollars to come up here? So we're
Yeah,
just not even going to discuss it? Like, just turn a blind
yeah, and I
eye?
mean, the national parks make a lot of money, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like Yellowstone has millions upon millions of visitors every year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of money coming into that area. And most of the national parks are that way. So they don't want to drive people away, scaring them that, hey, if you come out here and camp, it's a good chance that one of the five of
Right.
you is going to go missing and you
Right.
will never be seen again.
Yeah.
Right?
You pick which
But
child you'd like to go missing today. Right.
yeah. So, and
Joe
people are
Dirt
like, well,
playing in the
animal,
trash can.
right? Like animal attacks, right? And like,
Mm-hmm.
again, you're going to hear the animal. And I believe in the history of national parks, there's only been, I want to say like 10 to 15
Mm-hmm.
missing people / deaths caused by animals.
Right.
I think two of those were by cougars, and I think the other 8 were bears. Right. And the leading cause is drowning. Right. So that's the
Right.
biggest cause of death in national parks is people drowning with, I think it was like 870. And then next is car accidents, right? Vehicular accidents where people die. And so it's just like, but again, people aren't disappearing without a trace in those cases. So
Right.
I think what he's trying to point out is there's something else at play here, and I honestly don't think it's a human interaction type thing. And granted, right, there are some crazy ass people out there. Epstein's a good example of people were kidnapped, abducted, and forced into sex slavery, right? Sold. And that happens a lot. I think 2022 or 2023, the national daily average of missing people was 2,200 a day, 2,300 a day. People go missing.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And then
Like,
you take
most of them are found, right? But it's just a lot of people reported missing every single day.
Yeah, we take into just all the factors, such as sudden weather changes or wildlife encounters and individual behavior. You roll it all up into one. Should we maybe encourage our audience who are, listening that have interest or use national parks to maybe reach out to, the National Park Service to make them kind of, hold their feet to the fire, hold them accountable. Say, hey, why are you not keeping track of this data? Why can't we have the specific statistics on missing persons?
Yeah, definitely. They
2024.
should reach out, right, to the NPS, National Park Services, right, and demand they start keeping track and keeping a list. And again, with anything else with government, because it is a government agency, right? Like talk to your senators and House reps, right? Your Congress people, and let them know, hey, you guys need to put a bill forward that requires national parks to keep track of all missing persons in their parks and what the status was, like if they were found or not. Because again, in that documentary and in the book, they talk about a couple other cases where people went missing. And I think the one was it the kid in Crater Lake that went missing. Like I think it was 2 years later. Like mysteriously, his was and pants
Yeah.
were found. Right.
Yeah.
Like and in a place they'd searched. Right. Like they'd all gone through, searched the entire area. There was nothing there, no evidence, no dogs found, any trails, any tracks, anything. And then 2 years later, I think it was two guys that were out there hiking. They noticed something up in the hill where had previously been searched, and went up there, and there was like a shoe and a pair of pants. And
How
there
in the
again,
hell?
no evidence of something bad happening to the child because there was no blood on the pants. Right, the shoes had looked like they were still practically new. So how did those just miraculously reappear?
Yeah,
Right?
I remember
If
seeing
it
something
was an
about
animal killing it, that's not going to just return the clothing.
that. Mhm.
Right? So that's again why I think I lean more towards either like aliens or something like that, or portals, random portals opening up. But you can't prove it, right? Unless we somehow get that on camera, which we can't seem to do.
No,
So
we should remind our audience too that they exhaust all efforts. I mean, from what I saw, I
oh
mean,
yeah, they
these search
searched for
parties are
weeks and months.
huge.
Yeah,
People coming out on
hundreds
horseback,
of people. Yep,
yeah, just turning out to help and really like show care in their community and make a serious effort to find these
yep,
children and individuals while the National Park Service stands idle for sure.
definitely. Well, I think National Park Service is helping as well. Like their rangers are out there helping a little bit, but again, there needs to be a database, and we need to keep track of people disappearing and where they disappear. Right, like if people keep disappearing in a certain area, we should know about that, right?
Right.
And then you can have like paranormal investigators go set up camera systems or something, right, to see if there is something happening. But again, I think the biggest thing here and the biggest takeaway that I got from his book and from his documentary series is that MPS needs to start keeping track. So,
Sure.
and again, that's, the missing 401 definitely addresses, people just vanishing without a trace. And again, I don't want to diminish people going missing every day. Like I said, 2,200, 2,300 people a day. But a lot of those
Yeah.
people are found, right?
Yeah, they are.
Or there's traces left behind, right? So
Right.
there's a trail that dogs can follow. Somebody did fall into a lake or a river and drown, things like that. But even like a good example of that Crater Lake one is the kid just disappeared again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he'd fallen into the crater, you would have heard him screaming, right? Like somebody would have heard something, and there would have been evidence, or you would have seen him fall. Or I've been to Crater Lake National Park multiple times, and there's a ton of people there always. Like I've never been there where there wasn't probably at least 100 people just walking around the crater, right? Especially in that visitor area, because it's all paved and it's got a nice rock wall. Everybody's out there taking pictures. So for somebody to just disappear without a trace, like, it's got to be something else.
Right. And, I think maybe the National Park Service is hiding behind the fact that, so if you take a look at, say, 1,200 people, right? 1,200 people go missing in a national park, right? That's, 2024, 345 million is the estimated U.S. population, right? So that's like 0.00034 7. I don't know. I don't have my calculator in front of me or whatever. But do you think that they're just kind of maybe saying it's such a small number of the U.S. estimated population that it just is what it is. Is that another reason for maybe not tracking statistics
Yeah, I
and
think
collecting data?
it's a small percentage, right, of
Mhm.
people that disappear without a trace. But again, and basing that on the number of people in the U.S., yes, it is a small percentage, it's like less than 1%, I think. But at the same time, if you're the parent of somebody's child that and your child went vanished without a trace, like I don't give a shit about statistics. My kid's gone.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Fuck the statistics. I mean, if you're missing,
So
yeah,
right,
right.
and if MPS kept better records of like where it happened, when it happened, time of day, all kinds of more detailed reports, and made that available. So, like you said, some kind of database, right, that could track all that information. It's just making the public more aware
Sure.
of what's going on, and maybe that's what they don't want.
Right.
Maybe they have a deal with the aliens to sell off humans for slaves.
Oh my.
Yep, I said it here. National Park Services.
Right here on Comet X. We'll take that. Stick it in your pipe and smoke at their national parks. All right.
They're abducting
We are-
humans and selling them as slaves.
All right. This is Comet X with Jared and Ian, available on Spotify and YouTube, and we will be right back. So, Jared, you've had a chance to run through some of the statistics data. Welcome back to Common X Podcast with Jared and Ian, by the way. What did you discover?
So I think nationally, just in the U.S., according to was it National Missing and Unidentified Person System, about 600,000 people go missing every year in the U.S. And at any one point, there's 90,000 active missing persons cases. Most of the cases are resolved, right? The person is found either alive or deceased, but a pretty big portion of those remain unsolved. And it's estimated that around 1,600 to 2,000 bodies remain unidentified in the U.S. each year. So, I mean, that could be, and that's people that are found but deceased, but they couldn't identify them, right? How many of those people are actually, missing without a trace? I'd have to probably dig a little bit deeper to see if anybody's actually keeping track of that kind of a statistic. But I haven't seen anything.
That's quite remarkable when you really think about it. So if there are 345 million, if that, and I'm just throwing that out there, if that is the estimated, count for Americans, 600,000 is still huge, because how many of those 345 million even have the ability to go to a national park, or what percentage of those of the American population actually visits national parks? So perhaps that number is more astounding when you look at it from that lens, I guess.
Yeah. But, like I said, a lot of missing persons, they're found, right? Unfortunately, sometimes that's not alive. I was just watching that. They had a new series that they came out with, that Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson case. She disappeared, right?
Yeah.
But her body washed up, I think it was 3 or 4 months later. Right. So unfortunately she was found, and unfortunately it was not alive. But I think the bigger thing here is that we just need better systems to keep track of that. And then I don't think you're ever going to end it, right? Because kids run away because they're pissed off at their parents. When we did our TikTok live last night,
Oh God, that was a hoot.
Leroy was talking about, he would take off for like a month, right, or 2 months, and his parents wouldn't even know where he is, and then he'd show back up, right? So if he's doing that a lot, I'm sure his parents aren't reporting him missing anymore, because it's just like, all right, whatever, dude.
It's what that dude does.
Right. But at the same time, like, if your 5-year-old goes missing, you're gonna, call somebody, right? Call the police. FBI is going to come in. again, parents or whoever had that child with them is the first person they're going to talk to in an interview. And then hopefully, if those guys are credible and pass all the questioning that the police are going to ask them, they start doing a wider search to find those people. But we just live in weird times, man. There's just a lot of weird people out there. The whole Jeffrey Epstein thing's a good example, right? They're just taking young girls. Some of them are getting paid, through that system. But worldwide, children go missing all the time, and it's for sex trafficking. So all we gotta say is like, what the fuck? Like,
Right.
give me a break, people.
Yeah. I mean, God,
what's the overall issue with our society that keeps happening? So
right.
I don't know. And just making people more aware of it, I think, helps drive, hopefully some kind of change, or just making people more aware to keep better track of their children. Like in the Dior case, I mean, that one's hard, right? Because they're just walking away, and it happened within seconds. So, according to them, right? Like, all 4 of those people could be lying. I doubt it, right? Like, and mostly because there was no trace of anything. Like, if somebody there would have killed the kid or abducted him or done something with them, there would have been a trace.
Yeah, right.
Right.
There would have been something.
If some random person followed them back from the gas station, you would have heard the car, right? Or heard somebody walking off, or heard them grab the child. Because I've had lots of kids, and I'm pretty sure 2-year-olds don't go quietly into the night.
No, so, they most certainly do not.
They're kicking and screaming.
Yeah. And then there's no footprints or, anything, not even the basic things that you find in your investigative efforts, for sure.
Yeah.
So, it just keeps coming back to paranormal activity, which is just so weird for me, and I don't know if it's because I grew up throughout the 80s and the 90s and all those stupid fucking movies, It just, they made it so hard to believe any of that stuff for me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues, right? Is society has made that so fantastical that it's not real, right? That's not reality.
Right.
Aliens, right? People have made fun of it for so long and forever that, if you even talked about it, you were laughed out of the room. But I think within the last, 10, 15 years, it's definitely gaining ground, right? And there's certain groups out there like MUFON, the Disclosure Project, are, interviewing and talking to a lot of people that are in the military that have seen these UFOs, right? And come forward about some of them are even ours that we've made, and like from reverse engineering, crashed ones. So like, Roswell, things like that. And I didn't want really this to go into some kind of, UFO conspiracy thing, but at the same time, when people go missing without a trace, and I'm saying with zero trace, I don't know how else better to explain it than that.
Right. And that's what makes these missing 411 cases so unique, is that's exactly what they are. They're just that X-File type.
Right. Like
scenario.
1 minute they're there, the next minute they're gone.
Yeah.
And they're never seen
without
again.
a trace.
Right?
Yeah. And it would be more understandable
like,
too if there's 20 minutes of gap or something, where the child was by himself or something, but that's not the case.
Right. Or, those weird instances where their clothes reappear 2 years later. It's just, huh?
Yeah. What is up with that?
Right. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know how better to explain that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody does. So
no, I'd agree with you on that one, buddy. So, if we go back to like, say, the first case, right, which I believe was Dennis Martin. So that's like, we're talking like 1969, early Gen X times. And we're talking Great Smoky Mountains National Park. 1969. Father's Day weekend camping trip. And it ends in circumstances surrounding the disappearance as mysterious.
Right.
Again, so if we are talking, which, like I said, I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer here, but I just don't, I can't believe in that shit because the probably from how I was spoon fed throughout my childhood, the stigma of like, okay, there's a crackpot talking about this,
Right.
that would still say that. So the earlier traces there in 411 start right in 1969. I mean, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on how far you want to go down this rabbit hole, right? Maybe we need to do another episode on aliens, but I think there's a lot of other great information out there already, like ancient aliens and things like that. But it was, kind of a laughing stock type thing. Like I said earlier, like if you brought it up, people just laughed at you. And if you continue to do that, right, and people are continually ridiculed about coming forward about things that happened to them or things they saw, people aren't going to talk about it anymore. So I think a lot of these cases where people saw something and didn't say anything is they didn't want to be laughed at, right? They didn't want somebody to think that they were crazy. And so they don't say anything. But I think that taboo is kind of going away, like in the last couple of years, especially with the U.S. government coming out and releasing footage of things happening. And then the disclosure projects made it so any active military person that is serving that wants to come forward about incidences like that, they can now come forward and not be laughed out of the room or have any negative effects happen to them. They can't be like discharged or fired or whatever, right?
Right.
So they've actually passed a ruling that people can actually come forward now and have protection for coming forward. Kind of like it's almost like a whistleblower thing, but for aliens, right? Or
Yeah.
there are other things that are weird that are unexplainable. And there's a lot of people that have come forward, like thousands. So,
well, it's kind of interesting too. Like I still kind of feel it's fantastical that we have a actual branch of government now. I mean, the Space Force.
right.
I laughed when I heard that. I'll be honest. I laughed. I was like,
Right.
"What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
But we have it. It's apparently a branch of government. I think still. I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but maybe we are having to kind of warm up to the idea that there is something going on. I mean, I would think maybe the Space Force is more around protecting our satellites or resources that we have in space. I would think. I don't know that it's
I think that's
presented in that way, but
I think that's its main mission, right?
right.
Is to monitor the satellites that are up there and then monitor any kind of traffic that's out there that, nobody's made them aware of. China launching random satellites, they track all that. So they know at any given time what satellites where, and they can track all of them.
Right. So no matter what, we know that in recent years, there's been an increase in the discussion and that the U.S. government has acknowledged and released declassified videos showing some sort of encounter, at least between a UFO and military aircraft, right?
Yeah. And, kind of bringing it back a little bit to that missing persons, I think I pointed out to you yesterday about that guy that went missing. He's been gone for, what was it, 30 years, 40 years?
Yes,
and
tell
he
me
was
about
next
this.
door. He was next door.
So how the hell does
right next
that
to his house.
happen? He's
So
what,
the
in the
guy
neighbor's cellar or something?
Yeah, he was in the neighbor's cellar. So the guy that abducted him, he was like, I think 65 years old now. And he abducted the kid and put him in his cellar, and like nobody even knew.
Raised him
Like,
till retirement
that's
age?
insane. Right. So it's just
Abducted
like
a child and kept him till retirement age?
No, he actually died. And I guess the sons, there was a dispute over like the house itself. And so they were like searching the house, and somebody found this.
No. I don't want that house now.
Right. And this guy was down there. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and again, that would count as a missing 411, right? Because like nobody had any idea where this guy
Without a
went. Like,
trace.
when he was a kid, right? He just vanished. And it was the next door neighbor. Right. So now I think it was Algeria, right? So maybe they're
I mean, they're
police
not
aren't
up on
right.
things.
Right. Maybe they just didn't do a really good investigation.
A little bit behind the
Because
times.
right next door, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a police officer with that one. It's like,
No.
really? Next, and the thing that sucks is like his mom died while he was in custody or captivity. So she went to her death thinking her son just was either dead or abducted and never knew where he went.
Unbelievable.
But I think a lot of that does happen today, right? Still, because there's just whack out weirdos out there, whether it's, child predators or, sexual predators that are abducting people. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to fix that. Like, it's just a mental health issue. Maybe that's it, right? Maybe we spend more money as a society on mental health care. So maybe there's some warning signs prior to something like this happening.
Sure.
But again, if it's just a one-off guy that nobody ever talks to, right? And who's probably not going to go get mental health care, even if it was free or something.
Right.
I don't know. You can't really combat that or prevent it from happening.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
But it couldn't hurt, right? You could honestly probably negate other things that might happen because of people's mental instabilities.
maybe less tax dollars into the National Park Service that doesn't give a fuck.
Right.
Maybe we can allow some money from that fucking hole.
Yeah. But then it just takes, humans giving a shit about other humans and then not just themselves. Right. So that's
right.
I think, for tying this in with, Common X and Gen X, like, I think it's time for Gen X to just stand up and say enough is enough. Like, the way our world is currently running just sucks.
Right.
So it needs to change. It needs to get better, or we're all just going to be gone.
Right. So, and we are for sure the forgotten generation. We are the milk carton babies. We are the MTV, whatever. Anyone that.
Yeah. It's good you bring that up. Like, I remember being a kid and drinking out of milk cartons at school, and you saw the person that was missing on the milk carton.
Yeah. Like, right? Hey, I got a chance of going missing today, like this guy that I'm drinking out of the milk carton. Yeah.
And, being an asshole kid, it's like, oh, who's going to be on the box today? Right.
Right. Like, I remember looking at the milk carton like, what happened to you, motherfucker? Like, what'd you do to get yourself on this milk carton, And then you'd feel a little eerie walking down to the school bus because you're like, shit, you're looking everywhere, every which direction, like, I'm not getting in that guy's car.
But I think we've done some good things like the Amber Alert system. I think that's gone a long ways in helping with kidnappings, finding people when they get taken faster, giving those descriptions of the cars, blasting everybody's cell phone. Hey, look for this vehicle. Right.
Right.
And then that system works really well. So, and I think it's done leaps and bounds more good than bad. I don't think it would do anything bad, maybe misreporting somebody, but
right.
At the same time, like, I think more people have been found because of it and found quicker, right, before something else bad can happen. So I think that's a good system. That's a good case to show where some systems and technology have been put in place to help with this situation and help with missing people.
Certainly an excellent partnership. I mean, between law enforcement, and, news agencies and everybody all together to solve these, child abduction cases for sure. That's probably the most positive example that we have in this episode that we can point to and say, hey, we as a people have made an effort to try to curb this for sure.
Right. So that's a really good system that we put in place because of that.
Yeah.
But MPS standing up and starting tracking all disappearances within the national park systems would be another good instance of that as well. And you don't have to approach it from a fear standpoint, like don't visit our parks because you could disappear. And because it's not a huge number, right? It's not a big number of people that
That's
go missing in national parks based on the number of people that visit, right? So it's
right.
like it's not something to be afraid of. It's just something to be aware of, right? So when you're in a national park with lots of other people, you have no idea who they are, right? Watch your kids a little better. Just pay closer attention. Educate your children, right? Stranger danger, right? That was a big
Right.
thing that I taught, my kids, because that's something we were taught too. Like stranger danger, don't talk to strangers. So educating your children. If somebody comes up with them with random candy, don't accept the candy. There's a lot of education you can do just with your children as well to, I think, help prevent some of that.
Sure. All right, well, we're going to take a little break. Thank you for joining us with Common X with Jared and Ian, available on YouTube and Spotify. And check us out on Facebook as well. We'll be right back. Yeah, I have to agree with you, Jared. I think that the Amber Alert system is definitely one of the best things we've done for humanity concerning missing persons. Did you say you saw the statistics on that of how successful
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. So, since its inception in 1996, Amber Alert system has been credited with the recovery of over 1,100 children in the U.S.
Wow.
And the system, is very effective, very efficient. So 90% of Amber Alerts result in the children being found and safely recovered. So, I mean, that's a good example of, humans implementing a system to notify people when people go missing and get them recovered. Because, like I said, it just blasts everybody's cell phone. I don't know. Can you opt out of those? I can't remember if you can or not. I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. I mean,
I think it just goes
you're an
across the
Android
cell
user,
network.
right? I'm an iPhone user. It doesn't matter. Like my wife and I will be at the grocery store, and boom, our phones are both going ape shit, and everybody in the store's phones going ape shit at the same time. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that
So
has to do with the key to success is that it's a mandatory thing. It's definitely, I think it would be a deterrent for shitbags that are trying to take children as well.
yeah, I think it's definitely made it harder, right, for that kind of thing to happen. But again, it's more around children, right, and children going missing, because I think people are or parents are quicker to call the police when their children haven't come home and it's been like an hour or 2 hours, right?
Right.
Or they see somebody taking their child and call it in. So that's more helpful with that Amber Alert because they have a description of the car, maybe a partial license plate number, things like that, or multiple people witnessed somebody taking that child or person, and then they can call in the Amber Alert. But again, if it's just I don't know, messed in the head people, right, taking people, that's a
Yeah.
hard thing to combat. And I honestly, I don't know how to do it. Like, I'm sure more people that are smarter than me maybe have an idea, but I don't know. But again, that's a good common sense approach, right, to solving a problem is like the Amber Alerts and making it so you can't opt out of that. So it's a system that everybody has to be part of, whether you like it or not, right?
Right.
And it doesn't happen a lot. Like, I don't get Amber Alerts maybe once a year, if that. Like, I can't tell you
Yeah.
the last time I got one, actually. But when they do happen and they blast everybody's cell phones, I think that's a good thing.
I mean, 90% success rate. That's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
So there's no, I guess we should say that there's probably no hope for, I hate to say that. I hate to be that guy and be pessimistic. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything that we can do about the missing 401. I mean, lost without a trace. But I got to tell you, buddy, I've been looking trying to, track down a. I've been trying to find a way to justify this in my mind when it comes to missing children in national parks. I'm really not finding anything on animal activity. Zero.
No, there haven't been a lot. I think in the history of national parks, there's been, I think, like I said earlier, it's like 10 to 12 deaths, or caused by animals. That's just not a whole lot. Like, if you're a hunter, like, or even if you're out in the mountains mountain biking, or a hiker, and you're going in groups of people, animals are afraid of you. Right? They don't want to be around humans, so they're not going to,
I did see
hunt
one
you.
video with the guy and the cheetah. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think so. Was it a
And this
cheetah, or was
guy
it like a
was
mountain
throwing
lion?
rocks, and this thing
Okay.
was like coming at him, like paw swiping him, and like trying to like get at him, and it was pretty freaking cool. And this guy was about to shit himself, like anybody would.
Well, he was by
Finally,
himself too, right?
yeah, he was by himself, and he would just like he was trying to like get away from it and find time to grab another rock to like throw at it to get it to back up a little bit. And this thing went on like for some
Yeah.
time. And
But again, that
eventually
illustrates
the
the
animal
point,
left. Yeah.
right? It illustrates the point. Like, don't go hiking alone.
Right.
Right? Use common sense. Don't hike alone. Like,
Well,
find
and
somebody
certainly
else to
if
go
something
hiking
would
with
have
you.
happened, and that guy would have gone missing, there would have been blood. There would have been plenty of evidence. There would have been a
Right. There would
very
have been evidence of an animal
satisfied
attack.
cheetah with a
Right.
full belly.
Right.
Uh,
But it's not Sasquatch abducting people in the forest. So
well, I mean, we're saying there could be aliens. You think that
well,
the
I
world's
think
best hide and
Sasquatch
seek
is real.
champ is around? You think he's
Oh yeah.
around?
Oh yeah. I think so.
If Sasquatch came to your house, would you guys be friends?
Oh yeah.
I think so too. I bet he could drink a shit ton of beer too.
Well, probably.
I don't think we should have him in the pool though.
They're stinky.
Right. I'm sure he'd
No,
love
I
to
don't
go
want
in
him
the
in the
pool,
pool.
but you don't want him in the pool.
I wouldn't want to clean that afterwards. I saw Harry and the Hendersons. I know what happens.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, on Comment X with Jared and Ian, that we may possibly, at the minimum, wouldn't mind hanging out with the guy if he's, around. I mean, that's an awfully big fucker to not be able to find when you're playing hide and seek. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they're just incredibly introverted.
Introverted.
Yeah. They just don't like being
So-
around people. And I don't blame them. Like, I don't know, humans kind of suck. So like, we're cool sometimes, but as a species, I don't know that if I was a Sasquatch, I'd want to hang around with us either. So, and hey, maybe we smell to them, right? Like, you're using your Axe body wash, and they're like, "Oh my god,
He's like,
what
God,
the hell does that smell? I
out
can
here.
smell that guy from 2 miles away."
That's
Like,
why
yeah,
he's not
right,
going to get
dude.
close to me and see me because I
Right.
ain't going near that motherfucker.
Right. That's fun.
Yeah.
I've never
Okay.
seen one though, so.
So
it'd
in
be cool to see
conclusion,
one.
I think it'd be way cool too. I mean, geez. But, okay, so in conclusion, back to our missing 411, we would encourage our audience to watch these documentaries. There's some very interesting stuff in there. I think David Polistey did a very, very polished and decent job at presenting these cases, raising awareness about missing children without a trace, for sure. But I'm saying my synopsis and conclusion here, Jared, is that unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to find these people.
No, I don't think so either. But I think, like we talked about earlier, the big thing from this, and the big thing I think that he is trying to push as well from his missing 401 thing, is National Park Services needs to be held accountable, right? And start tracking these disappearances and tracking where they happen, when they happen, how old the person is, all the data points, right? And just throw it in a database that we can access through an app on our phone, maybe. I don't know, just so it's out there.
And maybe
So,
no matter
be
how good the
transparent.
fishing is, no matter how good the fishing or hunting is at Great Smoky Mountains National Park, maybe stay away from that one because there's at least more than one case at that place for sure.
There's a few hot spots. So,
all right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us here at Common X with Jared and Ian, available on YouTube, Spotify. Come check us out on Facebook and TikTok as well. You can find at Gen X Jared and Gen X Dad 80. We're out.
peace. Later. all.
Later, bro.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to the podcast, Common X with Jared and Ian. We really appreciate you guys and would love your support. So make sure you click that subscribe or like button or follow us on all our social media platforms and on YouTube and Spotify, because that would really help us out. And that helps us bring more episodes to you guys every week, and hopefully from content that you guys want to see. So reach out, TikTok, YouTube, leave comments. If there's anything that you guys want to see or any guests that you want us to try and get on, let us know. We do have a good lineup coming. So thank you again. We love you guys. Thanks for your support, and we'll see you next time. And remember, common sense isn't that common. So that's why we're bringing common sense back from Generation X.